Okay. Joy tea.
Namaste. Welcome. Look at all of you. What a treat. Yes. Let me drink you all in.
That just sounds a little weird.
Whee.
Ah.
All right. Welcome. And welcome.
And welcome.
Yes.
We haven't seen each other today. We live in the same house. Today is workout day with my personal trainer, so I ran in at the last minute.
All right. So I wanted to bring forward kind of a contextual vantage point for all of us. It has to do with why are we gathering? Why are we coming together? What is this context that we're now in where all over the world we can connect at the same time and to see each other and to hear each other? And I feel that it is consistent with this sense of building a fellowship, the sense of a gathering of awakened spiritual beings, which I assure all of you are, even if you don't know you are, because you wouldn't be pulled to this otherwise. And it was, for me, it's been a deepening, continuing recognition of why we gather. And we gather because there is actually a shared and common recognition of the time we are in. Concurrent with our own spiritual unfolding, that our spiritual awakening and development and that urge to move into a more true and full relationship with that inner reality that's showing itself in greater depth is also to prepare us to be more useful for this time that we share together. And I'm continuing to be impacted by a recognition, layers of recognition of the conversation, of the nature, of the purpose of our gathering, and the peril that's behind it all. And so I wanted to today just share some bits and pieces of a book that I've been reading, and also something from my teacher's book, Shree, Manifesting Divine. And to once again state something that's very gets right down to the core of the answer to the question I had when I awakened, which was, why me? And why is this happening now? So the book I'm reading is about climate change, and I've read just about everything that's out there. I keep current. I've been especially keeping current as I've been watching the carbon dioxide parts per million increasing every 2 weeks.
Okay.
Now you're going to have to endure this calmly, honey. I know. And now we're now at a point that exceeds the limit that science said that we would be able to hold back from 2 degrees of warming. And that we've now, that threshold crossed late in 2019 of 400 parts per million. And we're now at 416 parts per million in about 3 or 4 months. Now it's going to vary over the course of the year, but this is clearly showing that even with this pandemic, there's an arc that is not going to stop quickly in terms of its effect on all of us. Matter of fact, the whole world. I feel it's important to be informed to the best that we can know, because in this dimension, facts are truth. Facts are evidence. They're pointing to a manifestation of an inherent transition that mankind is going through, which has a lot at stake. And even if in our surface minds, we're not aware of this, in the very biological fabric of our personhood, and in the very design of why there is so much awakening occurring on the planet, knows it. That it's the piece of the world mother that lives your body, lives our bodies, that's linked to the distress, to the cry of this time. So I'm not making this shit up. I am recognizing that from the very beginning, I was pulled to architecture to create buildings that were more sustainable, more self-sufficient. And when I left school and went out into the world, there were so few opportunities to put that into place. But it was always there. I was always looking for, why are we doing this? Why do we build glass buildings in hot climates that require huge amounts of energy to keep them habitable? There was this part of me that knew there had to be another way. And when I came to Nevada and we settled out, I became involved in a group that was engaged in this, building alternative, building sustainable. But then one day, some gentlemen came to me and said they would like me to partner with them in a solar renewable energy business. And that got me involved with the Union of Concerned Scientists. And that's when I became aware of the climate crisis. And I became aware of the solution that renewable energy was, and was able to vigorously, even in the midst of my architectural life, lobby for a net metering law that allowed individuals to set up solar panels on their house. Before then, it was not possible. Working with the Union of Concerned Scientists, and I would travel to different parts of the country to these conferences where people were talking about this global change, which at the time, 20 years ago, 25 years ago, hadn't been out there very much. And I was struck by two things. One, by the quality of the people who were gathering, that they were clearly developed, awake beings whose motivation was coming from to play a part in correcting an imbalance in the world. And I was inspired. Now, my awakening happened sometime in that period. And now I could see that the cause of the awakening was the cry of the mother that was there in me, as it probably has been in all of us, to wake up in such a way that we could partner with her in shifting what needs to be shifted in the domain of consciousness, so that the correction of what's unfolding can occur. So I wanted to read something from my teacher, Sri Atmananda. Now, he shared this back in 2001, 20 years ago almost. Well, I'm going to read here. He was recognizing the transition we were in back there at the level of consciousness, and recognizing what that means for us as a species, especially for those of us who are awakened. So I'm going to read some of these portions of the book. Never has mankind in general faced such a challenge. This is a fundamental shift. Now it is no longer an individual problem facing the individual, but a collective problem for which the individual is trying to find the solution. The root of the problem lies in the evolutionary process itself. If we do not target the the source of the problem, we will become extinct. The root of the problem lies in the evolutionary process. Many civilizations have come and gone and are now the subject matter of history. If we turn our consciousness, we will not only save ourselves, but we can become collaborators with the supreme force that guides and controls evolution. Evolution is the process through which Mother Prakriti, Mother Nature, is constantly manifesting higher forms of life, higher levels of awareness, and ever new technologies. This process has now reached a point of imbalance, and Prakriti is now desperately aspiring for the conscious participation of the human species. Since the solution will not come from past knowledge, the present generation must find the way to collaborate with Mother Nature. So I have spoken to this. I've spoken, this is why we gather. And everything we do here in New Dharma is not just to empower that awakened spirit that you carry, but also to train you, the person, how to collaborate with that, to be able to contribute to the strengthening of spirit, to balance out the overemphasis on matter, to bring spirit up to the point where a correction can be put in place, where the momentum that we're now on can be mitigated, flattened, as we may say, so that the possibility of a sustainable future can occur for the species. So there's a purpose behind our awakening, and there is a very conscious developmental process that I and New Dharma are bringing to all of you. Of course, the first part is to strengthen the awakening that's occurring within you. This is done primarily through my programs and the transmission. But the second part is to provide a structure by which you can learn to co-collaborate, an understanding, teachings that can give you an intellectual understanding of how you can continue to develop the awakening spiritual process in you, to recognize its unfolding in you, to be able to stay true to the process that can be very challenging as we come out of the old and enter into the new. But then also to provide a structure, means by which you can take your awakening and apply it in practical ways in relationship with others who are engaged in the same process as yourself, in order to bring in this greater consciousness, this new consciousness, this truth consciousness, through your system into the atmosphere of the people you're working with, and thereby expand the effectiveness of what this particular work is doing, to develop you as channels and instruments for both the Supreme above and the World Mother from below. The World Mother is the one that gave us these bodies. The World Mother holds the burden of the error of the collective consciousness to the best that she can, and she's no longer able to hold it without the collaboration of her children. So she is willing and eager for us to continue to develop in the unfolding from her point of view, and in being able to have our system respond to the descending new consciousness that's coming from above. So it's a two-way effort, the Sat from above, the Asat from below, coming together in each of us. So this learning to collaborate with what is now available to mankind is really the design and the structure of everything we're doing currently. Satsang is now working like a whirling dervish in trying to empower structures of world peace meditation and global groups and programs done remotely in such a way that we can create a means for each of you to apply what has come to you with each other. And then thereby create a synergy beyond any one person that allows for this to become integrated in the collective consciousness, to lift us up out of this diminished, past-based momentum that is heading towards this cannot hold back, some version of catastrophe, extinction event, of which the coronavirus is simply Mother's way of saying, hey, wake up, come out of your slumber. What you do or don't do has consequences. You could be killing people off just by not wearing a mask if you happen to be an asymptomatic carrier. She is teaching the world, and the only way she can is through the necessity of a crisis. This is why it's happening, but it's not happening just because of man's ignorance, especially the male greed-based, power-based structure that has dominated the culture, that has not allowed the feminine, more sustaining and holding principle to have equal authority. It's this imbalance, not only with matter and spirit, but also with the feminine and masculine principles, which are really inherent in the design of creation. So this correction, this coming to balance is true within each of us. And for most of us, our mental intellectual development is way out of balance to our heart and body's wisdom and truth. And therefore, when we engage in the process of correcting the imbalance between the male and female principles within ourselves, we're serving the whole world in correcting its balance. Right now, what's running this world are puppets and instruments that are being driven by structures that are the accumulation of error of the collective consciousness over thousands of years. It has been purposeful. We're in a place collectively in the world where the quality of life and the possibilities of the fullness of life have never been greater for a much larger percentage of the world. The amount of war, disease, and poverty is enormously reduced compared to what it's been. We can now live to 80 and 90, where before living to 30 or 40 was an accomplishment. We're in a whole new era that we've taken for granted, but it doesn't mean it stops here, because there's a consequence. The resources and the capacity of the planet to hold the debris, the refuge that comes out of us being able to live in that level of prosperity and harmony and enhanced fullness is coming up. We just had the garbage men pick up our garbage and recycling. If it wasn't for the garbage men picking up and recycling, our yard would be a trash heap. Well, up to now, it's been the oceans and the atmosphere that's been assorting our garbage. There have been no other means in this planet Earth to get rid of the garbage. So what this is speaking to is a complete new paradigm for living, which is now going to have to come from something in the fundamental collective consciousness. It's not going to come from one country or this resource or that resource. It's going to have to come from a complete new paradigm of possibility. And we've been seeing this happen. Look at the change about gay marriages, about transsexuality. There have been shifts here in the United States and in Europe where there's this huge greater tolerance over before it was totally rejected. There is this opening up that's occurring from a place that we cannot predict, from areas that are coming out of left field and not along the lines of even what science is pointing to. This miraculous possibility that lied inherent in the very fabric of life is now being empowered to come forward to intervene in the inevitable otherwise consequences that would be coming. Our awakening, our collaboration, our joining together with this shared understanding of the purpose of our awakening, not being just about us or what we want or what we need, but something greater, allows us to consciously create a certain momentum that would allow this miraculous intervention to show up. Now, what does this look like? Well, I'll tell you, part of the way it looks like is there has to be a sense of paying attention. If people are not paying attention, if they're completely distracted in the otherwise events and stories, circumstances, then this miraculous showing that will come up will not be able to be nurtured and brought into the collective consciousness. What is it that brings something to our attention? It's a shift in the vibration of the consciousness that can attend, that attends. It is a shift in the very capacity of those in positions of power, those who are entrenched in beliefs and structures, that shifts the very fundamental capacity of each person in their ability to perceive and experience existence from what it was before to a new paradigm of possibility. If you look at the nature of our awakenings, it's exactly that. The world doesn't change, we change. And when we change, the miracle is the world changes. You can see this in your personal life, where structures in your family that were so entrenched and so stuck that all you could do was try to recover from it for yourself. But if you reach a certain point, when you come to your own authority and your own awakening, you'll notice that your family members start improving. They too start awakening in ways you didn't see before. And then their relatives and their friends and their connections, they also are being lifted up. So by changing our own capacity to receive and see and experience existence without the contamination and the veiling of our own individual expression of the collective error, to learn to thin out, to let go, to go through the process of the cry of the old self, of the old patterns of limitation and addiction and negativity, and be able to come out with a different viewpoint, a clearer, more open, more willing capacity of consciousness to be, then we're doing this for the world. So this is why we gather. This is the purpose of those of you who feel pulled to this work, to the energy that's coming through this form, and to participate in the various structures of training and guidance and participation that we are providing. It's to nurture not only the divinity in you to become more established, but also to nurture the role you have to play, to empower you to come into playing your part in this collective unfolding. You know, this is what the Gita is all about. The Gita is all about learning to play our part. In some of the early verses of the Gita, in chapter 2, Krishna says, Arjuna, fortunate is the warrior who gets such an opportunity to fight for a right cause. It opens the gates to heaven. When we align our outer life with our inner awakening, we bring a convergence of the spirit and matter within ourselves. Then the actions we take that are aligned with that continuing unfolding is the Dharma of this age, to bring it into our lived life. And that those action will further empower this new consciousness in establishing in us and also strengthen us to come and play our part in ways that we couldn't imagine by ourselves. In this way, this is what Krishna represents. He represents for Arjuna this new consciousness that came to him and showed him what the peril was on the battlefield, so he could experience the cost of continuing to live as he had been. And in that, showed him a way, a noble way, a way that would require sacrifice. It would require change. It would require a shift from the comfortable zones and strategies that he had had before into this new paradigm that could meet this noble cause. We can't do this with our intellect alone. Our heart has to grow. It has to go beyond our own self-interest. It has to go beyond having an investment in us getting the payoff. It has to grow big enough to include the cry of the whole world. The body is not going to be able to continue in the way it has in its small, narrow habits, structures, conveniences. It too has to become more and more capable to be a channel, an instrument, a vessel. And it too will go through its own process of expanding so that our body becomes something of a reflection of the World Mother itself. And that through us, the World Mother can come and empower this balancing in us and through us and with each other. Now, I'm clear that I cannot do this alone. Such a mind cannot do it alone. It's clear. I was listening to recordings of one group that's working with Mariana Kaplan, and it's so enriching for me to be able to get feedback from the people who are working vigorously in this work, who are part of the global training program, to be able to become partners in giving correction and direction and feedback with where I am still veiled, where I am still limited. And I do not feel diminished by whatever may look like criticism. I am empowered and enriched by it, as is such my, and as all of us are. Converting it into an ability to become more and more effective. Spirit is simple in its purity and its freedom. Matter is not. Manifesting, which is the essence of the work that needs to be done, of spirit and matter, means we need to meet all those structures in us that are part of our matter, our physical, emotional, vital, mental body. That is, it is not aligned with the role, the opportunity that we've been called to. So we can do this with each other. You do it with me and you do it with each other. We do it for each other. As a means of empowering each of us to own the part of us, or be able to be willing to own the part of us that we weren't able to own before, to bring that which is hidden to the surface. So this miraculous component that Krishna brings, that the new consciousness can bring, can be shown, and then we can consciously collaborate with its unfolding. Because although the mother works through us even when we're not paying attention, when we're in conscious collaboration with her will, with her intent in us, it's extremely more effective. So in a way, we have to both let go of the old ways of thinking strategizing, planning, and yet become more capable of receiving and seeing with clarity that which is hidden and that which is being revealed. We have to come out of the center part of the life force of our body that the heart represents into our relationship with each other, to find within us that which still is contracted, that still resists, is still afraid, that still has strategies of hiding or manipulating or protecting or compensate, in order for our heart to expand into the fullness of what we're being invited to be. And it's true in the body, in the center vibrational field, there in the third chakra where the Sat and the Asat come together, to expand our capacity to tolerate the transformative pressure that will convert the very cells of the body into vehicles for this new consciousness. This is why we gather. We gather to understand this. We gather this to be in communication about what this might look like, to be informing ourselves and to keep expanding our ability to get clarity about the nature of what's arising in you, so that rather than being defeated by it, being defeated by this unseen aspect, we can convert it into something that serves. Okay. All right. So that's my message for this for this day, wherever you are. Satsang, you have anything you want to throw into this? So what I thought I would do is just open it up for any of you who would like to speak and interact, share what's there, or ask a question, or even speak from where you are. We'll just see what comes out of this. But meanwhile, while we're waiting, why don't you take a few minutes, check in with your body, check in with yourself. Be aware of your breath. Be aware of any energy in your body, its location. Notice if there is a disturbing energy or disturbing thoughts or energetic sensations, or if there is an enlivening energy, something arising in you. Okay, so who'd like to come forward?
First up, we have Christy.
Christy.
Hi.
Hey,
Hi,
namaste.
Christy.
Welcome.
I'm new here.
Look.
I started absorbing the Bhagavad Gita videos in the middle of March.
Wow.
And I felt like coming to these calls, I felt like I was kind of lurking in the back corner and that was not okay. And so
Hey, good for you.
here I am. On Saturday, I wanted to do this, and somehow, like about 2 minutes before you were talking about the field, and words are so inadequate, but I couldn't move my hand to the mouse because it's like my whole body was fizzing. And so, and I was kind of like, what? Feeling it and watching myself feeling it. And that was very strange, but.
All right, well, welcome to my world. And that's clearly showing that your system can receive the transmission, which means your own consciousness has come out of her shell enough through the life you've lived, through other spiritual experiences, that it's more porous and therefore able to feel this experience, this transmission. When you begin to feel this transmission and you align with it, it starts intensifying and sets in motion fundamental changes throughout our whole system, impacting all the chakras, impacting the body, but also awakening you in your awareness to new ways to collaborate and to learn how to language what it is that's happening to you. So those Saturday talks are really trying to give you and others like yourself a general body of recognizing of information about what role the body plays in the unfolding of our awakening and how that might translate for us and what would be the symptoms of that. So it's perfect. All right, well, very good. Good. Thank you
Thanks.
for stepping out and introducing yourself.
Now, how
Yeah.
did you find out about Shree, Christy?
Do you have, how many Annalises do you have in your world?
Oh, yeah. Hi, Annalisa. I saw her on there. Yeah, got it. Thank you so much. Thank you, Annalisa.
Okay.
Not many.
All right, very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Namaste.
Up next, we have Adideva.
Adideva.
With his mom.
Hey, Adideva, mom.
Good to see you both.
There, yeah.
Awesome.
All right.
So I'd like to share something that came up last night. It's about just what you mentioned and we've been onto for some time, the power of my psychic being and the growing into my heart, opening my heart. So I was feeling quite tamasic, difficult yesterday, and I sat down to do an inquiry in meditation, or the inquiry started as I was feeling really quite apathetic and, you know, it really in my victim sloop.
All right. You were in your peril.
Yeah. And then I went to places I didn't know I ever was there, and it feels even awkward to just mention it, and that's why I want to bring it out, to take it into the light more. At some point where I sense where I've been holding back, there was like a gate, a door that was shut. Maybe, I don't know, it could have been eons ago in my psychic or wherever, a fear of loss. And I managed to enter this door carefully, and falling through it, lots of different things came up, but particularly this thing, it was like and at that point I was feeling this pain in my heart as well, coming up, that I mentioned in this last email too.
Yeah.
There was like this realm, vast realm in black and red. It was like a violent, controlling paradigm. You know, it's like ready to strike anywhere at any time.
Got it.
And suddenly I could just feel like that this is what has come up so many times in romantic relationships or in feeling love towards others or towards me. It's like that power struck down and destroyed whatever that was, that opportunity that could have been. You know, in a sense, it's like protecting me, but also, you know.
That feeling of like, did you say like a first love, like a new love? Is that what you were experiencing at that doorway?
Well, at this point, I think it was more like, at this point, it was more, well, it was like, often when it opens up, when I feel an opportunity for love, and it's like
possibility for love.
a possibility for love.
Actually, the possibility is love.
Yeah.
But then was that simultaneous to this dangerous volcanic eruptive quality?
Well, this kind of quality came more like from above, controlling, destroying the opportunity.
So it
That's
came
what
from
I
that
felt.
way. Came from above.
Yeah.
All right. So then there's that That's a very important clue, because one rises from the individual, primal survival, adaptation, bestialities, because human is somewhere between animal and spirit.
Mm.
So it comes from that, or it could rise above from below. So that strike, that fear strike, is probably indicating that you're aligned with that power through your psychic body, some way. And that could have either been exposed to it in the past in some way, or which has been part of something you've carried with you for some time, that has been from lives, that has been used perhaps in times of influence, where there is a kind of a striving for that to be met in yourself, is what's in the way of this beautiful unfolding of possibility in your heart. So it would say that there's something that yet needs to be redeemed, needs to be met.
Yeah,
to
it
be
feels like
recognized.
this is. There was a sense that this was protecting, like the great vulnerability that is beneath.
And we can align ourselves with beings to play that role for us, even past the time of their utility. Because when you come out of the need for protection, you come into the possibility of life. But that structure can prevent us from coming to the possibility. It no longer serves any useful function. We no longer need that degree of protection. So when you speak of that erupting, because you went into that tamasic place and you dropped into that dark period where things were hard to articulate, was there experience in your lower chakras? Were you aware of that in your body?
Well, actually, when it started out, it was more like I had a power from below. I could even, it was like I could recruit the sense of like rage that I had found from my first chakra, and it was helping pushing the energy upwards, but then it was stopping at my diaphragm.
I got it.
But
That's important information.
but then it was through one experience I didn't mention. It passed through the diaphragm more, but then there was the pain in the heart that remained stuck.
Okay. All right. So very good. All right. So it is still a matter of self-healing. And that has to do with the diaphragm, of course, is where we defeat ourselves. We blame ourselves. We guilt ourselves. We shame ourselves. So it leaks through that structure, unredeemed part of our ego, and was allowed to show a doorway to what's possible, to what's next. So it has something to do with the misuse of power, either probably your own, and then projected outward to others who are in authority or positions of power in your life. I suspect that's what's coming up right now. Why do we have problems with people misusing power? Is we have not learned to be in the right relationship with our own power. We can be intimidated by our own power. We're afraid of our own power because perhaps and often people use their power for destructive purpose, for ego purpose, for self-interest. These accumulate in part of our wounds, the wounds of our karmic body. So when true love comes, this gets in the way. So this is truly the case, not only in human relationships, where what defeats the human relationships are these unmet parts. It's also true as we move into relationship with the divinity that we are. Only it deals with deeper archetypal patterns. So it does say something's coming, Adideva, in your heart, and that this showing of this fierce power is part of it because love is powerful when it can integrate into our body, into the lower chakras. But the love has the ability to hold it larger than our self-interest. And it becomes a means by which universe can use our system to manifest this true love, truth love into the world. So good. What are you noticing in your body right now?
I mean, I am noticing some confusion. It's like I'm not really, part of me is not following, understanding what you're saying. I think it's kind of outside of my scope,
Good. So
but I can
this
see.
is, the mind is not going to follow. So just
Yeah.
stay in your body, the information that's in your body. Confusion, confusion rise. It is the mind trying to find a match between what it knows and what's being revealed. What's just important is just let the expansion occur in the awareness. Stay in touch with your heart and your body.
Well,
And it's not so important you understand what I'm saying,
Mm.
honey baby. Hey, Diva. It is for you to just receive. And to point out that this is what I'm seeing is happening for you.
Yeah, I can feel some of that hate or resistance or not wanting to receive whatever is being
That's
given. Yeah,
right. It has us
being
misinterpret.
pointed out. Yeah.
Very good. There it is. This willingness to let me in, the willingness to let the opportunity in means we have to go through all our issues about authority. We have to go through our issues about trying to hold our own sense of what's true or not true. That old sense of what's true or not true is limited by our conditioning. So when we meet someone like me, or when others meet someone like you, it's an opportunity for them to come into another relationship with themselves in relationship with you. Using this as the opportunity to do so. We give enough of our authority away to someone else to show us what it is we cannot see yet, to empower us to see it, so that we can gather in the purity and the accuracy of our own authority. Because when you're in your own authority, everything teaches you. Everything is an unfolding of what the universe is asking of you. Everything that comes up is always an opportunity to see what's still in the way. This ability to receive is opening up to everything, not just your teacher, or not just someone who's right now the person you're irritated with or resisting. And that's what the heart teaches you. The heart includes, not excludes. It's the one that says yes.
And I know really there's a longing to be close. And this pain that is erupted again and again, has been kind of pushing me away from being close.
Very good. Not just with me, but with everyone.
Yes.
All right, very good. Thank you for being so vulnerable. That's the courage you now have.
I'm dedicated. I'm dedicated to this vulnerability in my heart.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, Adideva.
Thank you.
Up
And
next.
Mom. Okay.
Up next, we have Lucy.
Lucy and Carl.
Whoa.
All
Oh, it
right.
looks like it must be Carl.
It's Carl today.
Hey, Carl. Very good. I'm very happy to see
She's
you.
sharing.
Yeah.
Okay, so in India, there was a noticeable increase in opening into the body. So since coming back, it's like the body feels awake in the same way that the head usually feels awake.
Oh.
And along with this is kind of the awareness that this expansion makes not only the body feel awake, but it also feels kind of empty. So as I focused on this, I found it was more accurate to say, quote, my unquote identity has become more empty, more impersonal. Now, in the past, when I've talked to you, I've mentioned the feeling of a flowing, often feeling is flowing, and a shaft of awareness. So what it seems now is that these were the beginning of this feeling of openness, seen from kind of an egoic perspective. So
Okay.
there's kind of two egos going on.
Yeah.
There's vital ego, which is kind of the body's habitual drives. And then there's this more intellectual ego, which is kind of made up of my personal beliefs and stuff, stories. And so I'm able to watch those kind of go along on from this kind of more impersonal place of openness and emptiness.
So that almost sounds like this impersonal place of emptiness and openness actually sounds like a third vantage point.
Yes, and that which is, it's like the vital is trying to move up into the heart. There's a lower vital and kind of as it moves up to the heart, and the head is trying to move down into the heart.
Okay.
And I've noticed a lot more emotionality coming up.
Okay.
So when I watch the coronavirus people, you know, the nurses and doctors, I often feel a rush of emotion a lot about. And also things, beauty will make me feel very emotional. If I hear something, I went to my grandson plays in a band. He's 12 years old, and they played a band piece written by some high school teacher in Michigan, you know, never played before. And as they were playing it, I felt really moved by that, about the beauty of some anonymous person creating something really, you know, amazing.
Yes. All
So
right. That's your heart. Let's stay with these a little bit before you move on.
Okay.
That's your heart opening, obviously. So the body is becoming empty is a reflection of a greater consciousness in the field of your vital. So there is this opening up, less contraction, less structure. And, you know, and while this emptiness is actually coming upward to allow for your heart to also open. It's not really empty, it's opening. It's opening to a relationship that's heart-based, not mind-based. The witness that you call the intellect that can observe is actually that third kind of knowing, that openness and able to receive, but contaminated by your intellectual analysis, the
Yes.
tendency of you to be scientific and try to understand every little piece of it. It does not yet have enough emptiness to see accurately. It's like the way to allow your intellect to become the Buddhi would be to empty it. No judgment, no evaluation, to hold back the rajas that still lives in your brain that wants to figure something out. You really wanted always to figure something out to be helpful. I mean, as a therapist, that's what you were doing. Your heart was actually there all along.
Right.
And the intellect was the tool that you developed to do that. But what you really want to do is just love someone and
Right.
allow them to discover that for themselves, to receive that love. So this part now can quiet. As this quiets, there will be a knower that is the unmanifest knower, that is other than the temporary knower, that is part of your human identity and human embodiment. And this will be in collaboration with the opening that is now allowing truth consciousness to come in. And it automatically takes untruth and makes it truth. And as soon as untruth becomes truth, love gets manifest. As soon as the ignorance becomes recognized, knowledge is manifest, but it's experiential. So these things that you're feeling, emotional things, you want to allow this to happen because there's an ocean of tears. and sadness and anguish for the world that you carry, that is your own individual sorrow for not being as loving as you could be, for not being able to receive the beauty before, not being able to know yourself before this moment. And that has to also be felt. So anything that activates that part of you, know it's the healing. No, it's the eating up of the error in the heart, allowing even more greater and true love. Because right now, this love's quite sentimental. So it's a sentimental love is for another person. Sentimental love still has an investment. The part of you that needs to be needed, the part of you that wants to be the one giving others love that you didn't get, you know, that part of investment starts fading away, and the love becomes more true and pure. And in the process, it becomes more effective. All right. So anything else, Carl, on that? You had your list you were reading from.
No, that was perfect, I would say. So it answered and clarified. So thank you.
Right. Very good. Thank you.
Thanks,
So
guys.
good to see you. Yes, the heart, the heart.
Good for you,
Good,
Lucy.
good, good.
Always
All right.
says
Very good. Thank you.
Yeah, 5 minutes, sweetie.
All right. One more.
So up next we have John.
Hey,
Hey.
who's going?
Now, who's going? Which of you?
Oh, John Green, us mean?
Yeah. You're both up. Can you see?
I didn't know it was John Green or John Sousa.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I'm busted. I've been for raising my hand because I feel like I'm at such a beginner level all of a sudden. My addiction stuff is just going shit crazy. Food addiction, and like I can see it's terror, it's baby crap, but my addiction is just bad.
All right. Well, you're waking up. You're waking up to the peril of being the way it is. And it's not anything you don't want to let this defeat you. You want to just, oh, fuck, look how fucked I am, right? It's this recognition of the peril. You want to allow that to ripple through your system without any obligation for it to be different. Because what you think is terrible is probably not. It is a matter of self-judgment, of shaming, that makes this little thing into a huge thing. It is not what's separating you from the beauty and the truth of you. It is the unwitting attending to the limitation and the adaptions of the self-judgments by giving them validity that you're bringing them into existence. So do not be worried about these things. They come, okay, there it is. I got it. All right. I wish to be different. Let the universe change it so that at some point I'm no longer interested in the things I was addicted to before. But you got to get out of the way of fixing you.
Okay.
You got to let the universe do the work.
Okay.
And as soon as you let go of this part of you that's habituated to your diminishment, you'll feel the universe.
Okay. I got it.
Yes. That's actually exactly where the work is. That's where the elephant lies. That's what you learn to be with, is when you're in that self-judgment and that defeatism,
Right.
but you recontextualize it. That's just another thing to be with rather than get overtaken by it.
Okay. I think I got it.
Okay, so what are you noticing as we're talking?
I'm feeling expansion in my heart. I'm feeling more relaxed. I'm feeling like it's not the behavior to focus on, it's the pattern of judging myself and therefore keeping myself small. I get that.
Very good.
I feel a lot of relief.
Yeah, it was no way to fix ourselves from this consciousness that created the problem. We have to have another consciousness, and this is the consciousness that happens when we get out of the way.
Yeah. Okay.
Very good.
Thank you so much. I'm glad I sort of raised my hand.
I got it.
Okay.
Namaste. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Hope I have this
All right, so there's the nature of the work. The work is going to be with each of us. Nature is going to be with you interacting with me and you interacting with each other to keep clarifying and re-languaging what it is that you feel is the reason you're not good enough or it's not happening or whatever you might otherwise project outward, and you can discover your own evil, your own nasty nature, your own unwelcome parts of yourself. Welcome your unwelcome parts of yourself, and you'll discover a complete new power in you to transmute the very foundational structures of your assumptions that have limited and defined what's possible for you. So this is the nature of what we were, the invitation, and this is the opportunity, and it's pointing to our shared purpose and the larger context in which it's arising. The World Mother and the Supreme with the new consciousness are here with you now to assist you in the unfolding. It's not something you have to do yourself. It's not something that you should stay ashamed of, but rather use it as a means to share and to make yourself more vulnerable and more willing to let the universe come in, just as we've seen demonstrations of. So there's the opportunity. So now let's just take a few minutes and we'll sit in silence. Oh, I didn't bring my phone. Did you bring your phone?
All right, how long are we going to sit in silence?
Just 2 minutes.
Okay. Give me a second.
Actually, we'll make it 5 minutes.
Okay.
So just get relaxed.
It's
get
not going to make a
comfortable.
noise, so you're going to just have to say begin.
Okay, go ahead.
Begin.
Hari Om
Tat
Tat
Sat.
Sat. Hari Om Tat Sat. Hari Om Tat Sat Shri. All glory to
the
Supreme.
May
May
truth
truth manifest.
manifest.
Namaste.
Namaste. Thank you.